Hello everyone. I'm Rosie Riot. I'm a DJ, presenter, and I also run a youth initiative called Riot Relief. Welcome to our discussion featuring our successful alumni from Point Blank. I'm joined here by Ricardo Burt, Tudor Monroe, Joe Osborne, and Pablo De Linares. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because the industries they're in, although they're experts in their fields, it's not been a linear journey, shall we say. So there's been many hats that we've all had to wear in this industry. So I'm gonna start off with Pablo, actually. Just like talk us through. We all began at Point. Well, didn't begin at Point Blank, but you studied at Point Blank. What did you study, and what's happened since? How's the journey unfurled since then?
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. So I studied in Point Blank in 2011. I did the DJ course for 3 months. After that, I started playing in Ministry of Sound regularly. And I found out that you needed to do a little bit more to make it in the industry. So I decided to do the 2-year online production course, which was very helpful to get the basics of production and to understand what I needed to do to get my music out there. After that, I started producing, and it wasn't easy. So to get into labels, etc. So I decided to make my own label to start bringing out tracks, and at the end, as they say, if the music is good, it will reach the right people. So I started doing that with my label, and then I started working for Deep Delay Management, which is a company in Spain which does booking and events. We have Live Nation as our partners, exclusive partners, and we deal with DJs like Guetta, Tiesto. We do festivals for 30,000 people. And I started just being an AR, and now I run all the shows and do all the strategy globally for the artists. So, yeah, that's been my journey.
Great intro. So we'll move on to Joe, because we're all in different fields here. So Joe, where are you actually? When did you start music? Because you mentioned before Point Blank, you did a bit of music before that, and then you went on to set up your own the sound engineering course. You got into that, but what was the moment you decided to get into that field?
Well, before Point Blank, I was doing a different degree, completely different. I studied English literature and Spanish, and alongside that, I began doing a lot of radio broadcasting, a lot of music journalism as well, and sort of fell into DJing through all of that, and kind of built this music platform dedicated to Brazilian music, which is kind of navigating my own heritage and my friends who I did it alongside. We kind of became the primary promoters for a lot of the biggest Brazilian DJ agencies and stuff. So we'd bring DJs over, and then kind of COVID happened towards the end of that degree. And kind of like you were saying, working in the music industry means doing a lot of different things. And I'd come out of uni with a degree in English literature. Had a lot of experience in music criticism and journalism, but to actually make money in the industry and not have to do a marketing job for some label or something like that, I thought, well, I'll go into the sound engineering world. I want to make my own music anyway. And yeah, really, when you're talking day job in the industry, which you kind of have to have to an extent, at least at the beginning, if you want a creative role, you kind of have to go down that kind of route, because like I said, otherwise you'll be stuck doing social media or something forever. So did sound engineering actually with Tudor for a bit, but I was on the 2-year master diploma, and then switched to the live sound engineering and music production course, which was more hands-on. I'd kind of already done a lot of the theory and other things that was around the 2-year course. And then happily, so I might have cut my last semester short and dropped out a little bit because I'd already managed to get a job in a studio working in immersive sound engineering and immersive mixing. So
Was that through work experience or just shadowing or anything like that?
that was through, I mean, one, it was through the opportunities that Point Blank give, especially like the advanced sound engineering modules with that Mark takes you to Le Mob Studios and you get some hands-on stuff, and like, you know, that's experiences to exploit when you're like writing cover letters and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was also just came down to getting the Music Week directory and emailing every single studio in it. And what I would say is, although I was taken on to do like, you know, immersive mixing and stuff, I think what makes people stick out is what else can you do? Because a lot of these independent studios, unless they're owned by Moloko or there's some like huge, you know, famous Metropolis, Rack, Abbey Road, it's a small team. So you're going to need to have to chip in with like, you know, I built the website at one point and like I'd write copy for adverts and emails. And then I ended up running a workshop for like 40 young artists and producers.
So you've really worn many hats within your journey.
Yeah.
A little bit of a contrast. So Tudor, I'm just going to move on to you because you mentioned you're predominantly production.
Yes.
So talk us through that. So I read a little bit about yourself, and I saw that you've worked with FIFA. Is that correct?
Yeah. That was one of my latest projects. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So in terms of your journey, so what did you study at Point Blank?
So I started at Point Blank in 2019. I was studying music production and sound engineering for 3 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like after that, so in terms of your journey and networking, obviously we can all come out of doing a course, but you know, it's a lot of it's up to us to network. What have you found really helped in terms of success? Has it been networking? Has it just been like sending it to the right labels?
So there are a couple things that I think were fairly detrimental for my progress within the music industry, and that's first of all, I really show up my face in every possible sessions, and in 100 days, I will spend 80 in the studio and make a song a day, consistent, intentional, and like the more intentional I go with my work, and I was like, this is who I'm trying to be, and this is what I'm trying to go after. When I got very specific, I started to get the best gigs and the best work, because I was essentially going shoot go. But then also like the whole network aspect and meeting the right people and keeping the connections up and maintaining connections and being active and take active steps towards that was really important. And then I also started to work with management. My manager, Alex, was right there. Then we kind of splitted the work. I do the music, you do the business, and let's make everything I learned in Point Blank, let's apply that on my project. You deal with that, I'm gonna do the music. And this kind of combo got us a deal with FIFA, multiple publishing deals that are coming right now, projects with like A-list artists all around the world, to be discussed, another gig for NBA this year, late this year.
Amazing.
Probably. All of these things fully independent as a result of consistency. And I don't know, it's just this hunger thing, like we always wanted to go get it. I came here to get it. So just being in the studio non-stop and working.
And what genre is it that you make predominantly, or was it many?
So I'm coming from a pop background, but right now I'm focusing on R&B, Afrobeats, amapiano, and pop sometimes, but mainly like R&B. That's my kind of
cool.
core.
Do you think that helps to have a bit of a USP, like in terms of a genre or a sound? Do you think?
Well, I think the more specific I go with the things I'm producing, the better it got. Because when I was starting at Point Blank, there's actually been a couple people in Point Blank that really made me change and realize a couple of things. One of them is a lecturer called John Davis, who played a very important role in my career in Point Blank, to basically like, who are you trying to be, like what are you trying to do, and what's your genre? Find your own thing.
Yeah.
And then I realized I actually like R&B. That's who I want to be.
And it felt authentic as well.
Yeah, stop like
Yeah.
splitting in like everywhere, because that never led to anything really.
That's great. It's very impressive. Working with FIFA, that's no small company. That's huge. I'm going to move on to Ricardo. Hello, Ricardo. So you've been more in the sort of presenting radio sphere. I'll let you explain what your journey, but it's quite interesting. I really enjoyed hearing about your journey and what you've been up to.
Yeah, I mean, hi, I'm Ricardo. So I'm a radio presenter and producer. Done a bit of presenting at different places. Yeah, I don't know. I always get stuck, with what exactly to say.
I think, because I know you said you started in, is it Devon?
Yeah. So I grew up in Devon, which is pretty slow. And then moved to London when I was 18, did Point Blank for the year. And while I was doing that, I was like, okay, I'm going to like get around, get across radio stations, start to just feel out the vibe. And it was interesting, like after that, I was working with a company that I'd done a bit of work before, and then back in Devon, and then I hosted at the Troxy, and I hosted their like massive awards night, and like Passalou was there, and it was like this whole big thing, and I was like, okay, like presenting is a vibe, and like I was able to do it, and it was like my first big kind of like gig, which was like paid, and you were really valued, and I was hosting the whole night, so it's kind of.
So did you just sort of put yourself forward? Do you find just chatting to people really helps? Just being quite, forward and, because obviously presenting, you can't really be shy, really, can you? Well, anyway, but like, you have to sort of approach people and talk to them. Is that what you sort of did, or?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be abrupt, I think, like abrupt in the action. You got to like go for it, be hungry, go forward. And I think like, especially after Point Blank, I'd done this year where I'd just been like actively creating, making, going out, presenting anything and everything possible, working out who I was as a presenter in the radio and then in front of camera and stuff. And then suddenly there was people who would send me jobs and request for things from me, and they started to know me. And now like this summer's shaping up to be like a summer filled of like hosting festivals.
Amazing.
I'm programming a tent at We Out Here Festival, which is like really weirdly mad. And it all came about because I did a radio show all about emerging rappers and brought all these rap collectives in, and one of their friends had saw that they'd done this freestyle on my show. She got in contact with me and was like, hey, let's chat some more. Like, I've just got this Rinse show. Maybe I could get you on as like to take over. Got chatting some more. And then she was like, actually, I've been told to try and get people to help me program this tent. So now it's just me and this girl, and we're just programming this tent We Out Here. And it kind of came about by
quite organically.
Yeah. You just putting stuff out there. And I think a lot of people get really concerned with like the content they want to put out. Like, is this not going to look right? This isn't going to get the right numbers, the views, the likes. And I think you've really got to just dismantle all of those ideas in your head, because they build up this wall. And actually, it's even like there was an interview in Tyler Creator. He found a beat and it had 6 views. And it's like anyone and everybody could be watching. And it's not always about how many numbers or how many people watch. It takes that one right person to watch a single piece of content.
I think, having a positive outlook is quite key. I know you mentioned you work with BBC Proms, for example.
Yeah.
And you sort of thought, okay, it might not be something that you would naturally associate yourself with, but you went for it anyway. And then it opened doors because you were working for the BBC. Mm-hmm. I think that's really interesting. And, I think, how was that?
Yeah, so that was a whole journey. It was like I saw this job application about this scheme to be part of this BBC like Proms classical music thing. And it didn't really describe exactly what you'd do about it, but it said you could get some mentorship and a little bit of that. And I just thought, look, if I get a mentor in a sector of the BBC that I'd like, that's a win. But I was like, I hate classical music. Like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. And I was thinking, oh my God, like, how do you get through classical music when you don't like classical music? I love rap and hip hop. Turns out, sampled loads in classical music. And I thought, okay, there's like thousands and thousands of applications, but there's probably 10, maybe 100 people who are coming from a rap and hip hop background into this. And instead of seeing it just as classical music and you've got to know classical music, I thought, I can appreciate the music. I can appreciate it from the music that I like, and I can take a new creative approach to it.
Yeah.
So I can almost give them creative outlets and make them appeal to a different sector of people.
Yeah. So you're thinking outside the box, really, aren't you?
Yeah. And I ended up hosting at the proms, which was really weird. And I like hosted
at the Albert Hall.
At the Albert Hall,
Yeah.
and it was
amazing.
Yeah, like there's people standing like right in front of you, and then there's loads of people sitting. And I had a new appreciation for the music, and I think being open and honest with them and saying, look, I don't like classical music, but I appreciate it and I like it how my music genres take it on. I think gave them something different and somebody different to be interested in.
I think that's key. I mean, would you, for the rest of you as well, would you say just being quite open-minded and, quite fluid in the way that you approach the industry and being quite positive, has that helped? Like, has there been any situations where you've looked at, you thought maybe you thought positively rather than negatively, and you thought, okay, I've had a no, but what can I do to get round this? Challenges, I suppose. Has there been any standout challenges you've had that you've overcome through, I don't know, a positive approach or thinking outside the box? Pablo, you mentioned like with there was a lot of doors you knocked on, that you had some no's.
So I think what we can learn from what the guys have said is that you need to be obsessed with this. You need to breathe it, live it. And I think surround yourself with great people. I think you need to know how to approach this industry with achievable goals. You need to break down your main goal and break it down into achievable things so you don't get demotivated. It's very difficult to get into the industry, but if you make a living out of it, for me, is the main goal that you should have, and then take it from there. For me, I've been doing this for nearly 15 years now, and it wasn't easy. I remember when I started DJing, I used to call as my own manager. I would be, I'm the manager of Pablo, and it would be me. And I found a way to get into where I wanted to be. I loved Ministry of Sound. When I came here 16 years ago, it was a club that I always heard about. And I went in there and I wanted to DJ in the room 103, which is the main room when you come in, the main bar. And I just found a way to get into the smaller rooms with promoters and start selling tickets as well as DJing. And then the promoter did very well. So we got the room 103 and I got there. But then when I was there, it's like, what's the next stage? The same with labels. I mean, we need to understand that labels have overheads. They need to pay staff, and the music is an investment. So, sometimes they won't like the track, even if the track is good, because they don't see that it's marketable. And I think, that's why I started my own label, because I had a vision of my sound, of what I wanted to do. And I knew that at the end is basically getting the music to the right people. And after that, my music did very well on Beatport, and just recently released a track with Ali and Fila and Richard Bedford, which has done amazing. And, it's a matter of being consistent and, not giving up.
So you essentially started up your label as a reaction to some of those situations, which in a way is just testament to how sometimes having a no is not always a bad thing. It can push us to, explore other territories and actually be our own bosses in some situations. Joe, you mentioned about how you've got many hats, and especially with like the teaching and what what are some of the other jobs that you perhaps didn't think you'd end up doing, but you have ended up doing within your career?
I think, yeah, maybe as a springboard to say that, like, I really resonate what you were saying about you went out your way to kind of collect all this music you love together and started trying to support it yourself and doing things quite independently that way. And I think that's something that I've always done, particularly with the Brazilian music platform that I run. And actually, you get very far by just doing the thing that comes naturally to you and the thing that you're passionate about, and it's your niche and it's very personable and you. And in a way, you don't kind of, like, I hear what you guys are saying about, like, the passion and the working hard and, like, the hours you put in. I think this might be slightly counterintuitive as, like, advice, but just doing the stuff that you really love, it might come easy to you, and it might actually mean less work or, like, less hours grafting, because it's something that is just you and is natural, and it's just you finding out a way to express that and put it down or collect it. And that's actually what people generally, I think, find most interesting. So I guess I can kind of split what I do into two parts, which is the, like, 9-to-5 stuff, sound engineering, teaching workshops. I was writing legal documents at one point for a day, which I don't know why. I have no grounding in law, but we needed some license agreements done for some artist on a compilation, so I was doing that. Teaching these workshops, teaching people how to mix using software for Dolby Atmos and Sony 360 RA, which are the two, like, leading immersive formats. Curating live sessions and stuff. All of that is kind of the day job stuff, and it's very rewarding, and you learn a lot of skills. But then it's actually often the things that are just your passion that get you furthest.
Yeah.
So, like, with Brazilian Wax, my platform, I released a compilation on Bandcamp, like a vinyl compilation, about a year ago, and it was like a crowdfunding thing, and then it's now been bought by a label, Mr. Bongo, and they're reissuing it, and I'm doing a lot of, like, I'm going on BBC London tomorrow to talk about it, and
So you got that constant of the thing you really love.
and that's the
running
thing that
the whole
really,
time.
I did that, and it was there, and the momentum now carries itself, and I'm not looking for work through that, but because I've put my heart into it, and it's something that I know that I have a bit of an authority over, because it's my passion, and I put more hours and thought into this than anyone else.
That's
become the thing with the most momentum, and actually it takes care of itself a lot more than the hard work of
because of the love of it,
engineering and the mixing and stuff. In some ways,
that's really cool, and also it's quite an interest, like the Brazilian, like having a USP as well. That's cool as well, and I think it's authentic to you, and you love it.
Yeah, well, when we started the whole thing, we started as a student radio show back in 2017 or something, and me and my friend, we both loved jazz. We loved a lot of kind of avant-garde alternative music. We love classical music. The first conversation we ever had was about opera.
Awkward.
But we thought, like, well, if I'm doing this, like, why am I doing this? Is it just like a project for myself to indulge in something that, like, people like, and it might get me, like, you know, am I just picking, like, a popular genre of something I'm going to do a radio show about so loads of people listen to me? Or am I going to do something that actually serves a purpose, which is kind of shining a light on something that's bigger and better than me, and it's not about me, it's about this thing. And that, because of that decision, you actually, the success is greater, because no one really wants to hear about you. They want to hear about the thing that you've got to show, or, like,
creation,
talk about, or.
Oh, that's really cool, and it's good to hear about the sort of the reality of the, you know, the industry in terms of a 9 to 5, as it were. But that's quite a contrast to what Tudor, you were saying about how you actually took away that part in terms of the business side. You sort of decided to separate that and solely deal with the production. So has that, because you've done that, has that meant that obviously in terms of producing a body of work, music, you've just got tons of tunes coming out? How as soon as you got a manager, did you find, how did that change things in terms of your work output and stuff?
Well, that's a couple of things that changed. Mainly, obviously, like being able to split these tasks gave me a lot more time to make more. And in this industry, you truly need volume. Like, obviously, you need quality, but you can't learn how to do quality without quantity. That's impossible. If you think you're gonna make the biggest song in the world and that's gonna boom, that's not gonna happen. You need to make 100 songs, and maybe in 100, one might be good, but by increasing the rhythm of producing music, more music and better music, you learn how to make better music, and then you increase your chance to actually blow up with a song,
Right.
essentially.
And do you, like, in terms of like, is there like an average, like per certain amount of tunes you find, how many of those do you find really stand out and, blow up, or kind of you make money from, as it were?
To be honest, like, I've got some sessions sometimes. Like right now, I'm on a writing camp. Like right now, for the past 7 days, I'm still in a session right now. So I took a break now.
Oh.
So I'm so happy to get out of the studio a little bit. And like every song we make, I'm just like, that's the song. Like with every song, that's the song, that's the song. And there's some certain people that I work with that I feel like everything we do, it doesn't even matter. Like the music just feels so good and so right that the performance of the actual music doesn't even matter for me. But to be honest, with the time, when I started to make it, I used to get very hyped about songs. I was like, this song, this is the craziest song. But these days, I'm like, it's a song. Like, it's not that. Every song is special, and I stopped hyping about it. Like, whatever does, it does, because these days things just happen randomly a lot of the times, especially because of TikTok and all these crazy platforms that you just see a song going crazy out of
Trending.
nowhere.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make a lot of music intentional and with the right people and the right team
Yeah.
around me, pretty much.
Great. Yeah, that's wicked, man. I'd like to, like, after speaking to our panelists, I'd like to open up the conversation to the audience, and just to see if there's any questions to any of our panelists. Anyone got any questions at all? No? No. Oh, okay.
Okay, so if there's one bit of advice you'd give all these lovely people, what would it be?
I go on, like, guys, like, I'm being super like open right now, like, 'cause I'm going through this. Get out of the house, get out of the studio, show your face, be in every room, talk to everybody, like, and trust yourself. Like, if you don't trust yourself, no one does. And remember, like, every day, I think every day a star is born, and it's always someone better than you. You need to really push and sit in the chair and do the work, but show your face and put it forwards. Otherwise, that ain't happening.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think it's being everywhere and being like confident about your work. Like you have to talk about your work, else like no one's gonna know. So like you need to like shove it down people's throats and like not be afraid to like really big ups yourself in those moments, because you never know who you're talking to, who actually knows somebody. It's always that person knows somebody who knows that person, and then next minute, and you know, you're in a space where you need to be. So it's just about shoving your work down people's throats, basically. It's my advice.
Literally.
Any questions, guys? Oh, I'm going to come right round, actually. Sorry, can you pass that down? Thank you.
Do you think that when it comes to like self-releasing music, how do you think there's a good way to go about that? Because obviously it's like as artists, it's like you want to get your music out there, but you don't have the facilities to maybe have it as good as other music, but then no one's going to listen to you if you've got no music out there. So it's a little bit of a vicious cycle. Is there a right way to go about getting music out there before you hit the professional studios kind of thing? Like,
I think,
if that makes sense.
yeah, I think curation is really important, and doing the right things at the right time. But like Tudor said, quantity is also key, and momentum is key, and it might take a while to generate something. I think the other thing that, if I was to give advice to like unsigned artists releasing stuff off their own back, if you have any budget for anything, the thing that's probably most important at the beginning is thinking about your PR and your marketing, and do you know anyone in the industry maybe, or can you contact someone who has done PR for artists you like? And you can often find out on their websites, you know, on their like client list or whatever, because I found, it was a really like illuminating experience releasing a compilation on Bandcamp off my own back, and then having it reissued by a really slick label, and seeing the differences. And like the main thing is, you know, when I released it off my own back, I knew a lot of people, and it's within a niche where like people know what I was doing, and vice versa. Even still, you know, Instagram messaging every DJ I know who has a radio show, all of that kind of stuff. It was a drop in the ocean, and I was surprised also, because like I'd be like, oh great, well it's here on Worldwide FM today, and it's on BBC something or other, and it's on this and that, but I wasn't seeing any correlation on like the pledges or the pre-orders or anything like that. And then working with Mr. Bongo for this now, they know the right people, and they know the placements that work, and so like they'll get you a Guardian feature exactly on the day that they know it will do best. They'll get you like and you can do that kind of stuff independently. You can find there's digital distribution services that have like what's the word I'm looking for? Like music services, they call it often.
Playlisting.
Yeah, it's kind of playlisting, syncing, all of that, but also just
It's just knowing where to put the right money kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna pitch this story
Yeah.
to this magazine, and I have a really good contact there, and that might get you a little something or other. I do think that's worthwhile, and having not done that first time round, and the headache of trying to like really promote that was tough. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
We got time for a few more. Any more questions? Back to you, Rose.
Well, back to me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Hi, my name is Muskan. I'm doing a 3 years course in music production and vocal performance. This is my first year. So I was planning to soon release my own music and be an independent artist. So you have been in this field for a long time. So what are the few tips that you give to a new releasing artist, like how you should be mentally prepared as an artist for what's coming towards your way?
I think one of the main things, I mentioned it before, you got to try to get in the rhythm of getting consistent with your music, and instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to put out this tune that I'm working so long and like thinking so much about it and never actually doing it, but more rather like, okay, I'm going to release a song and another song, and next month another song, and I'm going to build a small catalog. And also, it's very important to explore, I think, to try to find who you are, because later on in your career, the people that will want to work with you will want to work with a product that's shaped and something they can work with. You know, like, this is who I am, I need help. So, yeah.
I think as well, like, because I think, like, from a radio, like, presenting, like, point of view as well, like, it's you should always build an ecosystem, I think, around you and your releases. Like the artists that I'll regularly champion and then who I will then like produce to put on like Foundation FM and like I'll try and put them in other spaces as well, are the ones who they, you know, when there's a track release, they've also got, you know, it's an email with a full, you know, it's their Insta bio, it's the press pic, it's a bio about the track, it's a download link, it's not a WeTransfer, it's normally not a SoundCloud either. Like I want one that I can download, not a WAV, never send it in a WAV, just whatever, like, because it just won't get played. It takes up too much storage. But I think that ecosystem around the tracks then makes you look really cool. Like obviously the music speaks wonders, but also everything, you have to have these structures around you, and then it can get you those plays. And also always look at, you know, the independent, the grassroots stations, because more often than not, the people who are working at those stations don't just work at that singular station. They work across a whole range of platforms, and I think that can also get like your music heard more, and you can have quite a strong support system around you who will keep coming back to you to like have your music.
I definitely agree with that, and the idea of narrative as well around what you do, because again, like I've been on the radio side and the journalistic side of it, and you get a lot of good or interesting music coming to your inbox as like press releases and stuff like that. And sometimes it's as simple as, right, well, I need to make a story out of something and all of this music's good, but this one, there's like a really great hook, you know, there's something that from like a readership perspective will kind of be more engaging. And generally that's just the person who sent the music in being more expressive about who they are, and maybe, you know, a bit of detail about the song or whatever it might be. But yeah, because you've got to find the word count somehow. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to make something out of this. Whenever you're played on the radio or someone's written about you on like an online platform or anything, the journalist or broadcaster's job really is like, you know, the song speaks for itself, but you still need to do something. So what are you going to say? What's the like draw that you're using to pull people in? So yeah, like the narrative around something is definitely important, for sure.
I also think that it's very important to break things to its simplest form. I mean, music at the end is a product. The listeners are your audience, your clients. And if you start self-releasing, the only thing that you need to find is those people that want to buy your product. What they very well said, the narrative is very important because it makes it more desirable, but also the quality of the music has to be good. I think building a community around your music, building a fan base, nowadays, with everything that is going on, you don't really need a record label to start bringing out music. You just need a distributor, have a plan, a business plan of how many releases you are going to have and how you are going to work on them, and then just try to find your customer base. At the beginning, you might get 50 streams, but the second time you will get 100, etc., etc. So I think sometimes we see things far away when we are students, and you know, we think, oh, that's so unattainable. But by building yourself those small goals, concentrating on yourself, stop looking at everybody else. There is always going to be somebody better producer, better DJ, but just focus on being the best that you can be in what you want to do. And I think self-releasing hasn't been easier, but you need to have a plan. You need to stay consistent. You need to bring out tracks every month. And you need to find your community. If you think about it, if you get 1,000 true fans that give you €100 or £100 a year, that's 100 grand. And you can make a living out of that. You don't need a label. A label sometimes is more credibility as an artist, as a DJ. And I'm talking about the the electronic side, the production. Those labels, they normally only push the track if it does very well and they see potential. If not, it sits back. And I think for that, I'd rather release it myself. So, you know, it's at the end, is music is cyclical, and you need to find ways to stay there. But it's very important that to know that you can do it yourself, and you know, start small, and then the numbers will keep growing. If you see things growing every month, that's a positive thing. Like Rick Rubin says, if you make a better track than you did the day before, then you've done well. So that for me is the most important thing, to not get too confused on seeing how far everything is, and just concentrate on finishing your course, networking, doing the small things well, and then the other things will come along. I feel like sometimes we get demotivated seeing people that maybe were in the same class and they are doing very well, and some others that are not. They did very well, that's them. You need to focus on yourself, see how well you can do, and just take it from there.
You're right as well about the finding your community and stuff, because, you know, like, it depends what you're into, but for me, I've never been into all music I've always been into has been a fairly like underground niche thing, and actually they're thriving communities, and they're communities that go to gigs, they support things, they buy T-shirts, they buy records, they're really engaged. And actually, as you said, like having a small group of engaged fans is really the joy. And you know, it might feel great having like a crazy amount of streams or whatever, but really, like, for your career within music to be fulfilling, you just need like people to love what you do, and a small amount of people who really resonate with it and understand you and your expression, and you don't really need to think beyond that. If you're getting by and living doing that, that's like a major success, and that's really the be all and end all, I'd say.
Any more questions? Here you go, Rosie.
Oh, so they're really, really good answers, really in depth as well. We haven't got long left, but I wanted to ask before we finished some career highlights so far. Is there any that really stand out? Because I know you're all in different fields, but is there anything you can think of?
Well, for me, it has to be that I'm getting there to make music my full-time living. I mean, I have other companies and I do other things, but I think working with the likes of CAA, WME, you know, booking shows worldwide and being able to DJ worldwide, the label side, the production side, I think it's very fulfilling when you do things yourself and nothing is given to you in a silver platter. I think you appreciate things more, and you need to learn, you need to fail to be able to evolve. I think if you are not failing, you are not pushing yourself enough. You need to get out of that comfort zone, and you need to do your thing. So that for me is the main thing.
Amazing, yeah. Any others?
I think the thing early on when I was working at the studio I'm still at now, I kind of had an opportunity to run quite a big project, and ended up mixing for artists that I really loved, like Wulu, a guy called Control, a couple of others. And I think it was about just being like, yeah, okay, I'll do this. And knowing that, like, you know, I don't really have the CV to back this up. But going into the room and then realizing, you know, they open their Ableton session or something, and it's just as much of a mess as mine. And, you know, everyone in the industry, they're all still learning. You all have something to give each other. And sitting there in a room and feeling like they're equal, when normally you feel like, oh God, they're doing this amazing thing, and what do I know? That first moment, I think, when you're sitting there with them and you're like, you know, we're all actually just in this. We're all just people trying to make something. And I think that really helps when, you know, when you're beginning and you feel nervous and a bit insecure, or you might kind of resent other people doing well and stuff. If you're just friendly and kind, and you realize that, like, look, generally the people within it and the people who are doing it are super supportive and all want each other to succeed. It's the kind of people who didn't quite do it or didn't try or weren't brave enough or whatever, they're the critical voice a lot of the time. So sitting there with an artist I love and realizing that this is an equal relationship between two people just trying something.
And also they're constantly learning as well, constantly experimenting.
Yeah. You know, and all of you can teach one of your favorite artists something that they don't know, you know, and like give them something to learn. And like, I think that's a really important thing to remember.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's brilliant. And have you two got any standout memories or moments from your career and what you've done, accomplishments?
Obviously for me was the World Cup. That was a pretty big gig. I just delivered a Pepsi advert today for the Emirates, which is also like a fairly big project. But other than that, like just being able to be in the same room with people that I look up to and artists that I've always wanted to be in the same room with. I've got a session with H tonight actually for the first time.
Oh wow!
Another artist, I was like when I was in Point, I was like all of these guys, and I was just being able to actually say, "Do you want this song?" And they're like, "This is hard. I want it." This is a real blessing, and
wow.
I'm very happy this is happening.
Amazing.
But also, this year is crazy that I'm receiving loads of offers from major publishings that never really happened 2-3 years ago. But now it's a lot of validation going on as well. People saying we want to work together. So yeah, these are pretty much my highlights these days.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
I think just like the difference between like last year, and I had some like presenting opportunities and things coming through, and now this year it's like festivals are approaching me. I'm hosting festival stages, and like the workload of like presenting has like just tripled compared to last year, and it's bigger brands and it's bigger people, and you know, I was at a community station. I've now got a show on Foundation FM, and like that's a big, that was like a big jump for me, and it took some time, but like it got there, and the growth of that means that you just keep pushing on. So I just think I'm just grateful for like every year just growing and growing and growing, and it's happening. And
it all started in Devon at a youth radio station.
Yeah, it all started in Devon, and then kind of really surcharged when I was, you know, was here in London at 18 and just was running around stations trying to let me in, and then one did, and then I honed what I was there to make it a product which other people got excited for. So I think it's just continuous growth. I'm always quite grateful for.
Yeah, and it's also quite brave to just, you know, to leave where you're from and go to a big city, and you know,
so needed. Needed.
Okay, we're coming quite near the end, but I know Pablo, you wanted to you've got your Ministry of Sound competition you mentioned.
Oh yes. So basically, we are gonna be doing. We are hosting the Room 103 Ministry of Sound, which is the main bar when you get in. We are doing a few shows this year. So I'm gonna be speaking to the Point Blank team to offer one student the opening slot in the dates. It would also come with £200 because I feel everybody needs to get paid. So that will be coming out, I think, in the next few weeks. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, I'd like to say thank you to my panelists. You've been very interesting.
Thank you.
Big round of applause. Yeah, thank you very much.